I had to do some research on this one because I fortunately do not have experience with this type of unhinged parenting. What I found did resonate as true, and see what you think. So, toxic parents shift the blame to the spouse as a way of protecting their fragile self image and controlling the narrative surrounding the relationship. It is a deflection tactic. Instead of taking responsibility for their own part in the breakdown of the relationship, they instead shift blame to someone that is new or influential. Reasons that they do this are to preserve the perception of innocence or the delusion. Admitting fault threatens the toxic parent's sense of superiority and control. So, if the child begins to place boundaries or distance themselves, the parent feels rejected, something they can't emotionally tolerate. So, they decide that the reason for the distance must be the spouse. My child would not treat me this way unless someone was manipulating them, which really makes it seem like they perceive their child as an extremely weak spirit that just goes along with whatever someone else wants. But projecting blame on the partner allows the parent to keep believing that they were a good parent and that everything was fine until the spouse interfered. They turn the spouse into the scapegoat. The spouse becomes an easy target because they represent change and independence. Toxic parents or controlling parents often see the spouse as competition for the child's love and attention. When the child starts aligning more closely with their spouse, the parent feels threatened and displaced. By blaming the spouse, they can create this familiar dynamic where they're the victim and their child's been led astray. It can help manipulate sympathy. By vilifying the spouse, toxic parents try to sow doubt and guilt into their children. They might say things like, "You've changed since you met them. They don't want you to have a family anymore." The goal is to isolate their child from their partner and reassert emotional control. If that fails, they will use this narrative to try to get sympathy from others, painting themselves as the loving parent shut out by an ungrateful child who's under the influence of their spouse. And then there's also projection and jealousy. Many times the spouse embodies traits that the parent never has. The spouse is supportive and loving and respects the adult child, which is what the toxic parent cannot stand to see, someone that treats their child in a healthy manner. It triggers envy and resentment because it exposes what the parent failed to give. Instead of confronting this uncomfortable truth, the parents project the blame onto the spouse by calling them controlling, toxic, or brainwashing. So, in short, it seems like toxic parents end up blaming the spouse as a way of protecting their fragile self-image and delusion of what the relationship really is and what kind of parent they actually were. It is our children that determine what kind of parent we were, not society. If your child has walked away from you and cannot speak to you or will not, that is not indicative you were a fully emotionally supportive, safe parent. It's not about the spouse at all. It's about the parent's inability to face themselves and the fact that their child has grown beyond their control. I hope this helps. Have a good day.